Hey guys, welcome to 12 Tone. Today we're going to talk about non-harmonic tones. This is going to be our introduction to melody. The simplest approach to writing a melody over a progression is to just use chord tones and arpeggiations, but I can tell you from experience that that gets tired really fast. An easy way to add some actual interest is to use notes that aren't actually a part of the chord. However, these can be a little tricky to use because they present a dissonant rub with a supporting harmony, so as always we have a few guidelines for how to use them right. First of all, as we mentioned in the Harmonizing a Melody video, shorter notes go by fast enough that they don't really have time to rub against the harmony. How short this has to be depends on the tempo, but at a medium tempo, eighth notes are probably a safe limit. It also helps to put them in unaccented parts of the bar. Hitting a non-harmonic tone on beat 1 as the chord changes is going to be much more noticeable than on, say, an upbeat, which demands much less attention. So how do we use non-harmonic tones then? Can we just toss whatever notes we want wherever we happen to want them? Well, no. Because by their nature non-harmonic tones are attention-grabbing, they work best with some form of preparation or resolution. As such, there are a couple structures we tend to use when writing them. One common form of non-harmonic tone is something we talked about all the way back in the syncopation video, anticipation and suspension. Back then, we talked about it as entire chords changing early or late, but it's also pretty common to see the chord change normally while the melody hits early or holds late. But most non-harmonic tones are embellishments between chord tones. The simplest is what's called a neighboring tone. This is where we hit a chord tone, move to a note a step above or below, and then go back to the same chord tone. It might sound like this, or this. This creates a trill effect so the whole thing feels like it's on that chord tone but with a little embellishment. Next is the passing tone, where we move between two chord tones a third apart through a diatonic note between them. This gives our melody a smooth sliding feel instead of the jagged jumping sound it would have if we just skipped between chord tones. The last group are what are called incomplete neighboring tones, where the non-harmonic tone is a step away from one of the chord tones but a leap away from the other. The two versions of this you see the most are the reaching tone, where you start on a chord tone, jump past the target, then come back in, and the escape tone, where you move away from your target, then jump back to it. Other incomplete neighboring tones like this, or this, are fine too, but you see them less often and I haven't encountered a commonly accepted name for them. Speaking of commonly accepted names, this brings us to one of the most controversial terms in music theory, the appoggiatura. Over the course of my study, I've encountered so many different definitions for this term and so many arguments about where and when it applies. As such, I'm going to tread lightly here. I'll give you the definition I find the most useful, but be aware that people will argue with you about it. Like, a lot. The definition I like is that an appoggiatura is just a non-harmonic tone on an accented beat, most often beat 1 as the chord changes. I know I said earlier not to do that, but, well, art doesn't like rules. In this definition, there are two different types of appoggiaturas. The first is the prepared appoggiatura, where it's approached by step from the note before it. If the downbeat has a passing tone or a neighboring tone, it's probably this. The other option is an unprepared appoggiatura, where it comes out of nowhere. These demand a huge amount of attention, so use them only when you really want to grab your listener by the ears. And that's non-harmonic tones. Try the exercises, join our mailing list for updates and scans of all our episodes, and keep on rockin'.